This piece is honestly pretty cute. It's just not really fitting our vibe anymore with the gray. It's also got some issues with bleed through and just some scratches from setting decor on it too soon before the paint was cured. Another big issue is that the drawers don't work great because you kind of painted the sides of them. So we're gonna fix that. This is why flathead screws suck. This is gonna get messy. It's super important to make sure you mask up because this stuff is toxic. I really don't like using products that have harsh chemicals, but I have not found a stripper that works as well as this clean strip. I apply it liberally and then let it sit for around 15 minutes to penetrate the old finish. This product will absolutely destroy your brushes, so I again just use from the dollar store. You get 3 of these in a pack for like $1 or $1.25, so you can't beat it. I like to test a little spot to make sure that the stripper's ready before I go ham on it. I was super excited to use this stripping shovel that I just got that has a steel blade on the end, and of course this ended up being one of the least satisfying paint strips ever. The scraper works awesome, it's just that this is a furniture paint, so it doesn't really peel off quite like latex does, which is honestly a good sign. I would say most of this paint is actually adhered really well to this furniture. My mom swears that it only got scratched up on the top because she was setting items on it before the 30-day cure time. For all the intricate details and curves, it's best to just scrub it out because you can't really use the scraper. So the Clean Strip bottle recommends that you use either mineral spirits or their afterwash to rinse it off, but I find that gets really expensive, and when you have to do multiple rounds of stripper, I will usually just use water. However, I will say that the afterwash actually works a lot better, and I usually will do that towards the end. I'd say it's typically normal to have to repeat the stripping process at least once, especially if you have a heavy varnish. And in my case, I have a lot of really intricate details. Okay, I knew that this next part was going to get super messy, so I decided to go ahead and take it outside. Here you can see my brush literally falling apart from the chemical stripper. And now you can watch me struggle a bunch because I let the chemical stripper dry up before I came to scrape it. This Hart power scrubber really works some magic for me here. I swapped out the brush attachment to a firm and it started working so much better. You can use these hex brush attachments with a drill, but it's going to be a lot more difficult because you have to hold the trigger down. It's also really difficult to hold that heavy drill in place, and then you're also worrying about getting it wet because it's got that battery attached to it, whereas the little scrubber is water resistant. I needed to find an efficient way to clean in these tiny little holes, so I ended up finding these tiny little hex attachment brushes that are actually designed for cleaning engines, but they worked great in this case. Alright, I've got most of the finish off so far. I'm going to go in and do some sanding and then probably come back with a stripper and these little details, or I might pull out the Dremel. We'll see. I'm scuff sanding the whole piece smooth with 220 grit sandpaper right now. We're not trying to get through that really tough varnish because it's that early 2000s, almost impossible to penetrate varnish, so we're going to be painting this piece. I know a lot of people hate sanding, but it's kind of my vibe. Honestly, I love putting on my noise canceling headphones, grabbing a Celsius, and just going to town. I'm just listening to some music and can't be bothered. I always call this a Dremel by accident. Technically, the name is a rotary tool. I'm not sure what the little attachments are called, but they all come in the kit, and they did a great job at carving out these details and getting that last little bit of paint out of there. Now I know I wanted to do a faux wood finish on this, but I wanted to test out a few colors of my Retique It. And I decided to go with the barnwood stain over some light beige paint that I already had laying around. I typically use their light wooden primer, but I'm trying to get rid of some of this old paint that I have. And I was able to mix up a color that's really similar. We already know that this piece is a bleeder, so I'm going to use a clear shellac. This is going to seal in all of those dark red mahogany tannins that might bleed through any paint and primer. The bin shellac based primer is also great, but it's like $20 a can. Since the sealer is really glossy, I just went back with some really fine grit sandpaper to scuff it up a little bit. These Surf Prep Pro Foam abrasives are really great for that because they're soft and don't break through the finish. This paint's kind of old and clumpy. You should still filter it anyways, even if it's brand new, because any tiny little clump will clog your sprayer. This is a solid wood piece of furniture, but it needed to be done like yesterday, so faux wood it is. This is a flat mineral based finish that has a pretty rough texture to it, and I kind of wish I had gone with a satin because it would have been easier to apply my glaze over. This is why you should always test on cardboard first. So it's kind of spitting, so I need to thin the paint down a little bit. If you're doing a lot of refinishing projects, I highly recommend getting a paint sprayer. It's going to make the project go by so much faster, and it's well worth the investment. If you're having a difficult time deciding which paint sprayer to get, I have a blog article that breaks down the Wagner and the HomeRite paint sprayers, which are the two most popular ones for furniture refinishing. I started out applying the glaze with a flat brush and then wiping it back with a dry rag, but you'll see that I find a better method later on. Furniture refinishing is such a learning process, and I don't care how long you've been doing this, I swear I learned something new with every project. So basically I do it in vertical versus horizontal sections. So I know that this I'm gonna want to do horizontal, so I'm taping it off. And the rest I'm gonna do in vertical lines. And I'm honestly not too worried about making this perfect because we're going for like that French weathered look. And it's not supposed to be perfect. Super nervous though, actually. Probably should have taped off the legs. Yeah, I definitely should have taped off the legs. I'm gonna get it in the cracks. Now I'm gonna come back and wipe off the excess because I really want to highlight those details. I'm trying to work fast here. Luckily I have a little bit of cooler weather today. I'm having a lot of pulling. I think I'm working too slow. I hope I can recover from this because it's not looking great. It's just drying a little too fast before I can work it. I should have taped off the sections more. But I'm also being a perfectionist. I feel like this is one of those techniques that you have to accept that it's like supposed to look like that. So after I did this first coat of glaze, my mom came in the garage and told me that it would be easier if I used a round brush, applied it really heavily, and then wiped it back with a wet rag. I didn't like the way that this turned out the first time, and I hate to say this, but my mom's always right. All right, so the best way to apply this as a glaze isn't gonna be the way that I did. So it looked really streaky. So what you're gonna do is grab a round brush, and then you want to just really apply more than you think because we want it to go in all those cracks and crevices. Now you gotta work kind of fast. All right, once it's in all those cracks and crevices, that's when we're gonna hurry up and come back with a clean rag and wet it. Clean, wet rag and wipe back all the excess. You can see this piece has some streaking on it from earlier, but we're just gonna embrace it and know for next time. So now I don't have that streakiness I had before because I came back with the wet rag. I'm working in small sections so that it doesn't dry before I can wipe it off. All right, I'm glad we were able to make a recovery on this piece, and now we're ready to stage it. I was having a hard time with those stupid flathead screws, so I went to the hardware store and grabbed some Phillips head. Alright, now let's take a quick glance down memory lane at our little grayish blue farmhouse piece of furniture. And here she is now. I think she looks much more French-inspired, classic, and just the details are really highlighted and beautiful. I honestly didn't think I would be able to like this piece of furniture because it's just so not my style, but I think I actually love the way that it turned out and I wouldn't mind having it in my own home. I'm really curious to know what your opinion is of the Batwing hardware. Typically don't like this hardware, but I just couldn't imagine any other hardware fitting on this piece. I think it just goes with the intricate style of all the curves and designs. I think the glaze turned out really nice and added some great depth to this piece. I've been having a great time stepping out of my comfort zone and trying new techniques rather than just a solid, plain color. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching and please hit that subscribe button.